What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today, we are taking it to our Warlock with one of the new exotics that came out this season with the Cenotaph's Mask. Now, let me tell you, this helmet is definitely a landing pad for an aircraft carrier. It is kind of ugly, but it is very broken in my personal opinion, especially with some of that end game content when you are struggling with ammo, because this thing allows your teammates to have unlimited heavy ammo. So we are going to get into this build right here. Now for me, my abilities, aspects, and fragments using our Cataclysm Nova Bomb with Healing Rift and Balance Glide with our Pocket Singularity. Now for grenade, you can really go with whatever you are feeling. I personally like Vortex when I'm not using scatter grenades or something like that with those Nothing Manacles, because it's very good at its AoE damage, plus it plays right into our aspects and our fragments. So first, for our aspects right here, we're going to be using Chaos Accelerant, so we have increased size and linger duration for those Vortex grenades, making them even better in that PvE realm. Next off, we have Feed the Void. Defeating targets with your Void abilities activates Devour. While Devour is active, Final Blows restore health and extend that time for duration, which is very important for endgame. And this build, we are getting Devour very often and a few different ways, so we can keep up that health and survivability, like I said. Plus, it'll play into our fragments and some of our mods as well. Now, for our fragments, first off, we have Echo of Instability, so those grenade defeats that we get are granting volatile rounds to our void weapons, and we will be using 2 of them in a trace rifle, as well as our exotic rocket and two-tailed fox. Next off, we have Echo of Obscurity. This is interesting because it also plays in with our helmet finishers, make us invisible, help us get that 100 on the recovery, plus, like I said, you'll see in a second why we have this on. Next on the list, Echo of Starvation, another way for us to get that Devour procced with Void Breaches and Orbs of Power. We're going to be creating those everywhere with this build, as well as you will see with our mods on our artifact, as well as on our armor pieces. Now, last but certainly not least, those Void Grenades weaken targets, allowing us to do more damage on them, so this will allow us to juice those bosses in endgame activity. Plus, we are using our one weapon has Repulsor Brace, so that comes into play with volatility as well as weakening. Now, when we move on to weapons, want to preface this, you can change out your subclass if you want, because with the helmet for creating that heavy, you have to match the damage type on your trice rifle to your subclass. So for this, that's why I'm using a void one, but I did pull aside all the other burns that we have besides one solar one that I just don't have on me, and it's from the last raid in Ron, so don't have that one, but we have every other one in a second here. So we're in this build using Old Sterling for our anti-barrier, as well as that demo to help us get our Vortex Grenade. Our kinetic weapon that we have trace rifle wise is Adra Scepter. Now, when we move on to our energy special weapons right here, like I said, we do have another solar one from Ron, but I don't have it on me in my inventory. So we have Hollow Denial for Void, Retraced Path for Solar, the Path of Least Resistance here for Arc, as well as our exotics in Wave Splitter, Divinity, Cold Heart, and Prometheus Lens, another way for us to get all of those burns. Plus, we did just get a strand one from this dungeon, so we have every single type of subclass covered. Now for me on this build, I am using Two-Tailed Fox for those volatile rounds that we're getting, plus it just plays into the Void synergy of this build and the mods that we're going to have on our artifact and our armor pieces. Now, when we move on to our artifact right here, we're using that anti-barrier pulse as well as that overload trace rifles. Definitely just makes this build better this season with that helmet and using a trace rifle. Now, for our second column, using that authorized melee as well as authorized void, since we're going to be using a lot of that void synergy inside of this build on our armor. Now, these 3 mods right here are very important. Unto the Breach, Protective Breach, and Supernova. Unto the Breach, defeating those Void debuff targets, so Volatility and Weaken, are going to help us create those Void breaches, so you will see we're going to have them everywhere with those grenades as well as our Void weapons. Now with this Protective Breach, picking up all of those Void breaches gives us an overshield or refreshes our existing overshield. So with that Devour being procced, we're going to have survivability plus Repulsor Brace on that Void weapon in our Trace Rifle, as well as Protective Breach. So staying alive with a Void overshield as well as Devour proc is very, very easy with this build. And last but not least, for these at least 3, that Supernova, picking up a Void Breach again causes us to have a Void damage burst that is a weakening pulse, which will help us proc all of these in creating those Void breaches from a debuff, allowing us to pick it up for that overshield, and again creating another weakening pulse. And then again we're going with countercharge to give us that armor stacks when stunning a champion, as well as squad goals. So that is why we have that finisher fragment on. Performing a finisher while we have Devour active grants Devour to nearby allies when we're using our Void subclass. So all of those finishers that we're getting, because we're going to have Devour up basically consistently with this build, is going to help our teammates stay alive by giving them Devour as well. Now, when we move on to this juicer of a helmet, tell me that an entire Cabal fleet couldn't land on the top of this Warlock helmet. But high priority steadily reloads a portion of your equipped Trace Rifle magazine from reserves, so it is like an overflow almost that continuously reloads. Damaging bosses with a Trace Rifle matching your subclass marks it as a priority target. If an ally delivers the final blow, it provides heavy for them. So when you're going through those dungeons, whatever it may be, master content, you can make sure that you focus on those to get it a priority target, and then have one of your fellow guardians finish it, get the final blow, whatever it may be, to have that infinite heavy spawn for them. Plus, it does usually drop a special brick for you, so you can keep that Trace Rifle up at all times. And with this build, like I said, we're creating everything with our grenades and that volatility, weakening, Devour, granting that to our allies, as well as the heavy ammo. Now for mods with this, I'm using double Void Siphon just because it's going to give us some nice potent orbs of power to get our Nova Bomb back, as well as creating those for our fellow allies. And we're going to get our super again with Ashes to Assets, because we're going to get those Vortex's grenades very quickly and be able to spam it for that weakening and also for our super. Now, moving on to our arms right here, Firepower Grenade Kickstarter, allowing us to spam those grenades like I'm saying, and we're creating orbs of power even more with that firepower on those Vortex grenade defeats. Onto the chest piece, using Charged Up so we can carry an additional stack of that armor charge, which benefits us for that grenade Kickstarter, as well as I personally have melee damage resistant on, but you can throw on whatever it may be that you're going into. Concussive, sniper, and arc damage, void damage, whatever it may be. Again, I personally went with melee for my strike. Onto our boots right here, we have a new perk from this season called Elemental Charge, collecting a fire sprite, Ionic Charge, Stasis Shard, or Void Breach, or destroying a Strand Tangle has an escalating chance of giving us an armor charge, so allowing us to have that armor charge up all the time with all of those Void Breaches that we're going to create. That helps us just keep that grenade up and just perpetually give us Void Breaches, proc this, proc armor charge, proc Devour, proc heavy. It's absolutely insane. Now on top of that, we have double innervation, so when we pick up those orbs of power, they're going to give us our grenade cooldown, which again allows us to spam those vortex grenade for weaken and all of those benefits that I've talked about before. Now moving on to our bond right here, another new mod, Powerful Attraction, automatically collects those orbs of power that we're creating when they are near us in our class ability. So as soon as we throw down our rift and those orbs are around us, they're just going to automatically collect to us, which gives us our super, well as proccing Devour. So like I said, we're getting Void Breaches, we're getting orbs of power everywhere, allowing us to proc that Devour, plus having weaken as well as volatile rounds. This thing is absolutely nasty for endgame, and that support of giving your allies devour as well as heavy. And then we're using distribution as well as bomber, so on top of collecting orbs via powerful attraction, when we throw down our rift, we're gonna get all of our ability cooldowns just a little bit, as well as bomber. So that ability spam is absolutely nasty with this build, plus the survivability is us having devour, as well as those artifact mods with the void breaches giving us an overshield, as well as that repulsor brace on our trace rifle is giving us an overshield as well, with defeating those debuffed targets. So it is a crazy little positive feedback loop that this thing has, being able to keep us alive as well as our fellow guardians, while providing basically infinite heavy ammo for them, as long as they are getting the final defeats on those prioritized targets because of this helmet. So it is absolutely insane. Like I said, I've been using it with Void here just because it has been my favorite and very easy to spread that survivability with Devour. But if you're running a well, you can definitely throw on a solar trace rifle as well, and it is a very easy way to switch out your subclasses. I showed you all of those trace rifles that we have. We can cover all of our subclasses. So very interesting helmet. Even though it looks kind of ugly, it has so much potential, and that infinite heavy is so nice in endgame when you're struggling for that DPS. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this build. I truly appreciate that support so far this season. Builds have been popping off. I hope y'all are sticking around for the other videos we got coming out. Lots to go over, so hit that bell notification. Come back, don't miss a thing. I truly appreciate all of you. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.